All right, so today we're going to take a deep dive into something pretty profound.
Okay.
Chapter 21 of the Quran, the prophets. And I think when people hear the prophets, they think it's just like a list of names and dates.
Yeah,
But it's really so much more than that, right?
it is.
It's about understanding God, creation, and
Yep.
what it all means for us even today.
What I find so fascinating is how this chapter just starts. Like, it doesn't ease you into it at all.
Bro.
It just throws down this gauntlet right from the first verses, like, Judgment Day is coming, and people are just hitting the snooze button on the wake-up calls.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, end of the world, whatever, like,
Yeah.
pass the snacks, I've got things to do. But then there's this detail
Yes.
where they accuse the prophets of being sorcerers.
Isn't that interesting?
It's almost comical, right?
It's like, oh, you're talking about this God who created the universe. Must be some kind of magic trick.
Yeah. Are you David Copperfield with a beard?
Exactly. But I think that this skepticism, this questioning of the messenger, it's such a human reaction. You see it echoed throughout history anytime someone challenges the status quo.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've definitely had moments where, like, if something seems too good to be true
Right.
or too big to grasp,
Right.
I get that little voice. It's like, is this legit? Or am I being sold a bridge here?
And chapter 21 just tackles this head on. It says, yes, prophets are men. They are inspired by God.
Okay.
They're not these untouchable beings, but people chosen for a purpose. And there's this great verse, verse 7, that even encourages you to double check.
Oh, wow.
It says, ask the people of knowledge if you do not know.
It's like the Quran is saying, don't just take my word for it, go do your research.
Exactly, exactly.
So it's not about blind faith, it's about informed faith.
Mm.
It's pushing you to seek understanding,
Yeah.
which makes me think about how we approach knowledge in general.
Yeah.
How often do we just accept things at face value instead of really digging deeper?
That's such a good point. And this chapter extends that same scrutiny to the very act of creation.
Okay.
So it's packed with these descriptions of Allah's power, not in this, like, abstract way, but with this vivid imagery you can almost picture.
Yeah, like the description of the stabilizers that are placed on Earth to keep it from swaying.
I love that one.
It's like a cosmic engineering marvel.
Yeah.
And it makes you realize that this creation wasn't just for kicks.
Exactly. Verse 16 is so clear about that. It says, we did not create the sky and the earth and what is between them for amusement.
Okay, so there's a deeper purpose here.
Okay.
It's not just about marveling at the pretty lights.
Right.
Which brings us to this whole concept of truth versus falsehood,
Yes.
which this chapter really hammers home.
It does.
And it doesn't mince words.
Yeah.
It uses this powerful image of truth crushing falsehood until it vanishes.
There's a sense of urgency to it, almost like a battle cry. And it begs the question, what is this truth? And the chapter equates it with recognizing Allah as the one true God and rejecting anything else.
So there's this cosmic clash going on between what's real and what's fake.
Right.
And humanity is caught
Right.
in the middle,
Exactly.
which is where these stories of the prophets come in.
Right.
They become these case studies in how to navigate this battle.
I like that. That's a good way to put it.
So we're talking about some big names here: Abraham, Moses, Noah,
Oh, yeah?
like the all-stars of religious history.
You got it.
And each story zooms in on a different facet of this struggle for truth. Like take Abraham, for example. His story is all about rejecting those idols, those false representations of power.
Yeah.
And he doesn't just reject them quietly.
No.
He goes full-on iconoclast, smashing those idols, leaving the biggest ones standing just to make a point.
Right.
It's like he's saying, all right, if these things are so powerful, let's see them do something.
Exactly.
And of course, crickets, nothing. Then you've got that scene where he's thrown into the fire, and boom, divine intervention. He's protected, unscathed.
Talk about a mic drop moment. Seriously. It really drives home the point that truth will out. And those who stand with it will be protected. And it makes me wonder, have you ever had a moment like that where you felt like you were being tested?
Oh, yeah.
Like standing up for what you believe in, even when it felt like the whole world was against you?
That's such a powerful connection to make. And it's not just Abraham's story. This theme of divine protection and the ultimate victory of truth, it runs through this whole chapter. So where do we go from here? What other prophets are we going to meet in this chapter? And what lessons can we learn from their experiences? So we've seen how Abraham faced down his doubters. Talk about courage and conviction. But chapter 21 doesn't stop there, does it? It's like a whole anthology of Inspiring stories. What other prophets are we going to meet on this journey?
Well, buckle up because we've got Moses and Aaron next, the dynamic duo,
Oh, yeah.
leading the Israelites out of Egypt.
The ultimate escape from that toxic workplace.
Oh, talk about a liberation story for the ages. But it's not just about breaking free, is it? There's a deeper purpose.
Yeah, what is it?
Chapter 21 reminds us that they weren't just leading people out of something, they were leading them towards something. Righteousness.
Okay.
They were given this criterion, a set of laws and guidelines, almost like a divine constitution, to help build a just and moral society.
It makes you think about the leaders we have today. Are they leading us towards something better? Or just trying to keep things from falling apart?
It's a good question.
And speaking of leadership, we can't forget about King David,
Oh, yes, David.
the guy who took down Goliath.
The original giant slayer.
Talk about an underdog story.
Seriously. But you know what I find interesting?
Right.
This chapter focuses on a different kind of power. It highlights his musical talents.
Oh, really?
He's described as singing God's praises. And get this, even the mountains and birds join in.
Wow, so it's like nature itself is moved by his devotion.
Yeah, exactly.
It's pretty powerful. And it also makes me realize that prophets aren't just these stern figures delivering pronouncements. They're artists, musicians, poets, people with this deep connection to something bigger than themselves.
Exactly. It reminds us that inspiration can take many forms. And speaking of inspiration, we can't leave out Solomon, David's son.
Okay.
This guy was known for his wisdom and his ability to talk to animals.
Okay, come on, that's just, I mean, who hasn't wished they could have a conversation with their pet?
Right. But it's more than just a parlor trick.
Yeah.
Chapter 21 talks about his control over the winds, his vast knowledge, even his ability to command the jinn. You know, those supernatural beings. This guy was operating on another level.
Yeah, like he had access to knowledge and power that most of us can only dream of.
Absolutely.
It makes you wonder what secrets of the universe are still out there, waiting to be discovered.
And you know, not all the prophets had these larger-than-life powers.
Okay.
Take Job, for example.
Oh.
His story is a powerful reminder that even the most righteous among us can face incredible hardship. He loses everything. His wealth, his family, his health. Talk about hitting rock bottom.
That's tough.
It's heartbreaking, but it's also incredibly relatable.
Or absolutely.
I mean, we've all had our struggles, those moments where it feels like everything's crashing down.
Yeah, those moments when you just want to crawl under a rock and disappear.
Exactly.
But you can't.
But what's amazing is that through it all, Job never loses faith. He holds on to that belief in God's mercy even when all seems lost.
That's true faith.
And the chapter tells us that his faith is rewarded. He's restored to health. His family is returned, and he's given even more blessings than before.
Wow. So even in the darkest of times, there's hope.
Always.
It's a powerful reminder that even when we can't see it, there's a greater plan unfolding.
You know, that divine justice, that cosmic balancing of the scales, it might not always happen on our timeline or in the way we expect,
Right.
but it's there,
Right.
working in ways that we may not fully understand.
So we've got leadership, wisdom, resilience. What other lessons can we learn from these amazing individuals? Because chapter 21 isn't done yet, is it?
Oh, not even close. We've also got the story of Jonah, you know, the guy who tries to run from his prophetic duty
Oh yeah, Jonah.
and ends up getting swallowed by a whale. Talk about a consequence you don't see coming.
I guess you could say he got a whale of a lesson in obedience.
Yeah.
But seriously, it's so relatable.
Yes.
That feeling of wanting to escape our responsibilities,
We've all been there.
even when we know it's not the right thing to do.
Absolutely. And yet, even in Jonah's moment of rebellion, God's mercy prevails. He gets a second chance. A chance to redeem himself and fulfill his purpose.
It's a good reminder that no matter how far we stray, there's always a way back.
There is.
And then there's Zechariah, who prays for his son despite his old age and his wife's inability to conceive.
Oh, yeah.
Seems like a hopeless situation,
It does.
but his faith is rewarded with the birth of John the Baptist.
His story teaches us about the power of prayer and never giving up hope, even when facing impossible odds.
Yeah, it's like a testament to miracles.
Yeah.
They can happen, even when we least expect them.
Exactly.
And it's not just the men who are highlighted in this chapter. There's a powerful story about a woman who exemplifies those same virtues, faith and submission to God's will.
You're talking about Mary, the mother of Jesus.
Yes.
Even though she's not named explicitly, her story is woven into the fabric of the chapter. It emphasizes her piety, her devotion, and that miraculous conception that defies all human logic and expectation.
Right. It's a reminder that throughout history, women have played a vital role in shaping our understanding of faith and spirituality. Their stories deserve to be heard and celebrated.
Absolutely. And if we take a step back and look at all these stories together, there's a common thread.
What's that?
It's this idea of divine guidance. This sense that we're not just wandering aimlessly through life, but there's a purpose, a plan, a path laid out for us.
Like a cosmic GPS guiding us to our ultimate destination.
That's a great way to put it. And it's comforting, to know that we're not alone on this journey.
Oh, for sure.
Throughout history, there have been these individuals chosen to guide and inspire us, to show us the way.
And these individuals, while chosen for these really special roles, they were also human.
They were.
They faced doubts and temptations and hardships, just like we do.
Exactly. Makes their triumphs all the more inspiring, knowing that they weren't immune to the challenges of being human.
It makes me realize that striving for righteousness, connecting with the divine, it's not about being perfect. It's about the journey, the struggle, the constant effort to become better versions of ourselves.
You got it. And these stories, they're not just ancient history. They're meant to guide and inspire us today.
Right.
So as we move forward in chapter 21, think about how these stories resonate with your own life.
Yeah. What lessons can you learn from their trials and their triumphs?
How can you apply their wisdom, their commitment to truth
in your own journey?
And what does it mean for you to contribute to building a more just and compassionate world, just as the prophets strive to do in their own time?
That's a great question.
These are powerful questions to consider as we approach the final verses of chapter 21.
So we've journeyed with these prophets, witnessed their incredible struggles and triumphs, and gleaned some serious wisdom from their stories. But chapter 21 doesn't stop there. It takes us beyond these individual journeys and kind of hints at something much grander, the fate of humanity and the world.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It shifts gears and zooms out to give us this panoramic view of the end of time, the day of judgment, that moment of reckoning where everything comes into sharp focus. And it's not subtle about it either. It describes the disbelievers just staring in horror as the truth they've been denying suddenly becomes, well, undeniable.
Intense.
Yeah, there's this chilling line, "Woe to us, we were oblivious to this. In fact, we were wrongdoers."
Wow. I mean, it's like that moment when you realize you've been ignoring all the warning signs and suddenly it's just too late.
It really makes you think, right? About those compromises we make every day, Those times when we choose what's convenient over what we know is right. Are we setting ourselves up for a similar kind of reckoning in our own lives?
It's a scary thought.
It's not meant to instill fear, but it is a powerful call for reflection. It's like chapter 21 is saying, hey, wake up. The choices you make, they matter, not just for now, but for eternity.
So it's intense, this whole idea of judgment and accountability. But amidst all that, is there any hope? What happens to the people who've genuinely tried to live righteously, who followed that, divine GPS we were talking about earlier?
Well, the chapter offers this beautiful assurance. Those who've earned God's favor, they won't experience the torment and suffering of that day. They're welcomed into paradise, a realm of pure bliss. Their heart's desires, they're fulfilled. It's like the ultimate reward for staying true to the path, for striving to be the best versions of ourselves.
Okay, so there's this stark contrast. One path leads to, darkness and regret, the other to light and fulfillment.
Exactly. It really highlights the idea that our destiny is shaped by our actions, our beliefs, our core values. And it's not just about us as individuals, it also speaks to the fate of the world itself.
So what happens to the earth after this day of judgment? Does it just, vanish?
Well, this is where things get even more interesting. Chapter 21 tells us that the earth, this world we're living in right now, it's going to be inherited by God's righteous servants. It's not just about escaping this world, it's about transforming it. It's about creating this just and righteous order that extends beyond the physical realm.
So it's like our actions have this ripple effect. They impact not just our own lives, but the very fabric of existence.
Yeah, it gives a whole new meaning to leaving a legacy, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about what we achieve in this life, but about the kind of world we leave behind.
And as chapter 21 comes to a close, it leaves us with this incredibly powerful message. God is one, and submitting to his will is the ultimate path to salvation.
It's like this reminder that despite all the complexities of this world, there's this unifying truth, a guiding principle that connects us all.
So we've reached the end of our deep dive into chapter 21, the prophets. It's been quite a journey. We've encountered prophets who faced down giants, who talked to animals, who even got swallowed by whales. But beyond all those incredible stories, there's this timeless wisdom, this call to live with purpose, to seek truth, to strive for righteousness in everything we do.
And it's a message that's just as powerful today as it was centuries ago.
Absolutely. And I think these stories, these teachings, they offer guidance and hope and inspiration for navigating our own complicated lives.
And even when we're facing challenges, they remind us we're not alone. We're part of something larger, a grand tapestry woven together by faith and resilience and the pursuit of truth.
So as we wrap up here, take these lessons with you. Let them be your guide. Remember, the journey continues, and the path to fulfillment lies in embracing that wisdom and striving to make our own unique contribution to the world.
Beautifully said.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you'll keep exploring these amazing messages and let them inspire you on your own journey.